Hey there, and welcome into University of Hoops, the show that gives you an inside look at the people making everything happen on your favorite basketball team. Today, we are very excited to welcome University of Oklahoma Director of Analytics and Video Coordinator Tom Fox. Tom, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Boomer Sooner. We're happy to have our first Sooner on the show. I know that you're back at the college level after a year in the pros. And we'll get more into your journey and each of the stops that you've had, so far. But what has the transition been like for you now? And it's so crazy. It's already February and it's March Madness is going to be here in two
Yeah,
seconds. So how's it flying by for you?
it's been great. Love being back in the scene. Great staff, great team, great coach. So it's been fun. It's been a bit of a whirlwind. I kind of got the job pretty last minute, but it's the landscape has changed since I left with the NIL and all that kind of good stuff happening. But yeah, it's great to be back.
I know obviously the SEC is a tough conference, and every conference now in a D1 basketball is always tough. But what are you guys doing to try to find success and with March around the corner and the conference tournament 2 seconds away now, it feels like what's the mood of the team and what's that like with the pros? Obviously you have a long season, you have the playoffs. College basketball kind of gets going and then boom, before you know it, it's March. So how's that developing?
That's been great. The guys have I mean, today we had a great practice today. Everyone's great spirits. It's just really exciting. In the SEC, it's like analytically like one of the best conferences of all time, I think, right now. And every game is an opportunity to stack up quad one and quad two wins, mostly quad ones. It's fun. It's great to be a part of, and our guys are relishing it. It's great.
For you in your role, analytics and video, such a fascinating and cool crossover there. What does your day-to-day look like in the midst of the season?
Busy, but no, it's every day is a little bit different. At this point, it's an awful lot of scouting, and I'm kind of in charge of putting together like we're about to play Missouri, so I'll break down all their actions, their offense, what sets they run, what concepts they're running, break that all down. Then I'll collaborate with whoever's running point on the scout. We'll have collaborative conversation. Then we'll take that to coach. And then I'm also working on the personnel reports and all that fun stuff. So it's just really fun. You're deep diving into these teams and just an awful lot of watching materials right now. And then our own practice, not skipping the process of watching our guys practice every day and clipping it and making sure we're getting our guys better at the same time. It's good.
One thing that I'm fascinated to ask you, Tom, is with your background being with the Greensboro Swarm last year at the G League level and now being at a big Power Four school. I mean, at this point, college sports is especially college football and basketball has basically become like pro sports with NIL, right? The transfer portal, trades, it's basically trades and free agency, right? It's like now in college sports. So being in the G League last year, now being at Oklahoma, what are some similarities that you've noticed between the two levels, and then what are some of the big differences as well?
I think, I mean, at this level here where, we've got pro prospects on our team, we've got NBA personnel coming into the gym to watch our teams practice, watch our games. The guys are really locked in. It's like I'm not going to say like a business, but like, they understand that like what we're telling them is helping them to go to the next level. They can see it. Every day they're seeing all these guys coming in. So I think it kind of like mentally kind of, locks those guys in a little bit more so. Not to mention now, they're getting money now. So it's essentially like, you've got perform, it's your job almost now at this point. So I think and it's been really great. Our guys, they really work, they're in the gym, they're great kids. They listen, they watch the film I send out. They, incredibly attentive in practice. It's been great to see.
How do you and your role and the rest of the staff in their roles accomplish a lot of that stuff that you just talked about, just in terms of making guys comfortable in this like wild new landscape of college sports?
I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to like the relationships that you have day to day with the guys. You're just building it up as it goes, making sure you're touching guys daily and one to ones, and it's just building that equity with the guys. The more you do it, the more they trust you, the more they're willing to learn, and I think our staff does an unbelievable job with that day to day, touching those guys and building a relationship up.
Now that we've touched a fair amount on what you're doing right now, want to take it back. And you're our first Brit that we have on University of Hoops, Tom. So uh, happy to give you that honor.
Appreciate
Um,
it.
but with that said, you're from England, and I just want to start there. Like, tell me about where you grew up, what your family did, and how you got into basketball. Over there before we get into what you did over here.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, from Manchester in England. Grew up there, and so I moved over here when I was 18. My mum and dad, they have their own flower business. So they specialize in a variety called heucheras, or in America, I think they're called coral bells. And they've got like the national collection of flowers and all that. So in that species of flower. So they do all these shows in the UK and promote their stuff, sell their stuff, and all that. So it's been fun growing up on a plant nursery. It's been really fun, different to say the least. But then yeah, just loved it over there.
And I was doing some research, and I saw that flower business that you're talking about that they sold to the royal family. Can you tell me?
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of a cool thing, I would imagine.
yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so they do these like it's called like the Chelsea Flower Show every year. So like it's like the best of the best around the world of all the different, plant species and all that. And the royal family go there every year as well. So the Queen walks around and the King, all that good stuff. You get celebrities walking around, and then the people that kind of give their cards up, try to get different varieties off people. So my mum and dad were able to get into a contract with the royal family with that. So that was pretty fun.
That's really really cool, man. Can't say we've had
That was
anybody with
unique.
this, yeah, with a similar story on the show. So I love that. But back to basketball. Um, I mean, playing on the national England U16 team and U18 team, getting to play for your country and that development system, what was that like? And then how did that prepare you to come over to America?
Yeah, I mean, it was, my dream growing up was always to be a basketball player. Ever since I watched Space Jam, and immediately after watching the movie, went back. My grandma got me a basketball hoop for Christmas, so I was just shooting on that for hours. Fell in love with it, and then started going to basketball practice from there. But no, I mean, it was, great moment for me when I made it to the national team and competed in two European championships. I mean, it's awesome. And then, the dream was always to come over to America, not necessarily as a coach, but the dream was always as a player. Didn't quite work out for me on the playing side, but it got me to where I am today, and loved it. It was awesome.
And then when you came over to the US, I know that you spent a year with IMG,
Mhm.
which of course is a very popular destination even back in the day for people like yourself that are coming from all over the world, let alone the US. What brought you to the US, and once you got here, what was it about being here that made you want to pursue basketball here rather than potentially going back or going to a different country altogether?
For sure. Well, I mean, I originally came over here because I wanted more exposure, playing wise, and I got the advice to try out IMG Academy. Um, and I mean, it was incredible down there. You know, the facilities were insane. Even back then, they were like world class. You had NBA guys coming to work out in the summers, and it was just a great experience. So I was actually there for 2 years. I got injured my first year. Uh, after the like literally before the first game of the season, the last like training camp practice, went to deflect a pass, shoulder popped out for the season. Go back the next year, and I broke my foot on like game two. So basketball was kind of not an option really at that point. You know, I was getting on a little bit in age. You know, so it was like, well, so I was asking my coaches at IMG, Dan Bartow and Coach Jackson, like, what do what can I do now, kind of thing. And there's a couple D3 opportunities and D2 opportunities, but then I was like, well. I'd be interested in coaching. And so they were just like, well, you should try to be a manager, and learn from the bottom on up, get your degree and see if you like it. So I kind of went down that route. I visited a few schools to be a manager, and one of the schools on the list was a recommendation from my coaches to check out Green Bay with Brian Wardle. So I took a visit to Green Bay and loved it. So I went there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, your time there, 2010 to 2015, working your way up, from being a student manager to being a video coordinator. What did you learn at the student manager role, and how did you climb up to become the video coordinator?
Yeah, I learned a lot. I mean, I was lucky that my two head managers ahead of me, they were great and they really kind of showed me the ropes. And then the staff at Green Bay they were just really good in giving me things to do. You know what I mean? Not nothing big or anything, but I got given a Synergy login as a manager and I was pulling clips and little things like that, and then, you're doing the day-to-day stuff, you're helping out practice, you're mopping the floors, you're making sure the laundry's done, all that fun stuff. Like you just really realize what goes into the program and what's needed, from the ground on up, for the day to day kind of thing. So I think it really helped me in that regards because I saw exactly what happened at the ground level. I got a little bit of a you know taste of the film stuff, and I was also able to spend a lot of time with the players. So it was just a really good experience, and it really helped me uh, understand what was needed for me to be successful. You know what I mean? When I got the job.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great message to student managers out there that might be listening to this on just how to maximize that opportunity. So that's great. And then in 2015, heading over to the University at Buffalo, where you were there till 2023. I mean, how did that opportunity come about? And yeah, just talk us through that transition to Buffalo and then how you worked your way up there.
Yeah, so Coach Wardle left Green Bay to go to Bradley. At the time, I was offered like a GA kind of thing to go, but because I was international student, it would have cost me quite a bit of money still to do it. So I remember thinking like, oh, like I'll be fine. We just made the NIT. We were really good. Like I'm sure someone will, I'll have there'll be a job available for me. Not really understanding how it all works. So I, try to apply for all these jobs, don't hear anything back. So then I start emailing coaches, like saying, hey, like, are you looking for a video guy? Like, love to be there. Crickets. So now it's like, end of August. I've got absolutely nothing on the table. So I'm just emailing every Division 1 school in the country, quite literally every school in the country, asking to volunteer. And I had about six or seven started to reach back then. And Buffalo was one of them. And Adam Bowman got back to me, who's now at Alabama. And he was like, if you're willing to volunteer, like we've got a spot available for you. So I was Uber driving at the time and working at the Marriott, trying to earn some money in the summer, and then I just packed my bags. Me and my wife drove down to Buffalo, and yeah, it was great. So I volunteered for my first 2 seasons there as a video guy. Um, and then, in the off season, coach was good and let me kind of work a little side job to make some money. And my wife really backpacked me back then. And then yeah, just kind of stuck with it. And then we won a lot, which helps. And then it became a full-time position there. So it was good.
Yeah, I mean to go from the video coordinator to, level to director of basketball ops and analytics is a pretty cool sort of trajectory there. And that's where I want to get into the analytics conversation with you. So of course being at Buffalo in that role till 2023, and then last year going over the Greensboro Swarm, and then of course now you're at Oklahoma. Um, what was it about analytics that maybe made you, interested in that sort of, angle of this? And it's such a interesting thing now where you see all these NBA teams have guys that just do that, and people like you that do it at the major, D1 level. So what was it about that spoke to you and has kept you in it, to this day?
I mean, honestly, it was probably Oates. It Oates because he's a math guy, and like I mean, he did such a good job, like on a day-to-day basis of bringing analytics in to our film sessions and whatnot, and he did a really good job of explaining it to the guys in a way that they understood. Um, and at that point, like I don't think points per possession wasn't being like you know talked about like in practice to the same level as it is now, and like little things like that. So like I just kind of latched on to stuff like that, and then I just kind of wanted to learn more and learn more. So I started reading books on it, and listening to talking to NBA guys about what they do, what they track, what they find important, what means the most to them, kind of things. And I just started to run with it a little bit. And at the time, I was staff at Buffalo when Oates left. There wasn't real no one was really kind of like doing the analytics side of it. So I just kind of started doing it. And then I was able to get it into my job title. So that was nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned Nate Oates, and of course, that's a name that a lot of people became really familiar with in 2024 with Alabama's run to the Final Four there. What did you learn from him, and what sort of mentorship and leadership things did you take from him?
Yeah, I mean, learn a lot daily. I try to. I mean, just this competitiveness in practice every day, and like the confidence he gave the guys. I mean, it was every day. Like those guys were like running through walls, and he was just, if he would shout at a guy for not shooting, that always stuck with me. And then just like I said, like teaching the guys the analytics. Like I think it's really hard. Like it's very easy for me to talk about transition volume and all that, but like getting the guys to understand so that it helps them. He does like a phenomenal job with that. I felt, and I think it really helped our teams back then.
Have you found as the years have gone by that players are buying more into the whole analytics thing?
For sure. Because I think they all have dreams of and aspirations of the NBA and the pros, and I feel like it's a part of the pro game now. It's so they're all interested in it now. It's great.
The last question I want to ask you about your journey, Tom, is the kind of the $1 million question that a lot of people, uh, are interested in and want to do, which is get into the NBA, right? Get into the whether it be the G League or the NBA as well. And you were able to do that, getting to the Swarm. So how did that happen? And what's your once you talk about that, also just sort of wrap in there too for me, just any advice you have on folks that are looking to make that jump.
I mean, I was incredibly fortunate and lucky. So my first year in Buffalo, Doniel Marshall was on staff, who was an assistant with the Swarm for 2 seasons prior to when I got there. And he heard about us getting let go at Buffalo, and he reached out and asked if I would be interested in a video spot there, and I was like, yes, 100%. And then conversations kind of started in April with him, and then by the end of August, I had a few interviews at that point, and it was great. Yeah, I just got really lucky, know the right guy at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just to round it out, now you're a Sooner. How
Yeah.
did that come about? And what have you learned so far this season?
I mean, similar kind of thing. One of Angus Thorpe, I worked with at Buffalo. He heard that the video job was open, and at the time I was interviewing with a few other places, and he was like, would you be interested in it? I'm like, yeah, 100%. So he was like, well, I know this person, this person, this person all kind of know Coach Moser, like, I'll have them reach out. And it's kind of how it all happened, really. Just I got really fortunate that we had a lot of mutual connections to Coach Moser, and yeah, it was great.
We just went through your whole journey, Tom. Give me one of your favorite memories, maybe something that you're the most proud of being a part of along the way.
Um, as like a coach,
Sure, yeah.
um, I mean, so many of them. I mean, like a Buffalo, like I mean, one of the best moments was when we beat Arizona in the NCAA tournament. I don't think anyone had us. We busted a lot of brackets that day. That was a very proud moment, really fun to be a part of. Um, but I'd say like other proud moments would be like, when you're around guys for like 4 years and you know they graduate as well as making it professional basketball, and it's kind of like seeing the growth of the guys, that day one, like maybe the school came hard to them, or maybe they didn't look like they were going to be pros on day one, and then they ended up working their way to it. I think they're really proud moments as well. Like obviously not just for me, but for the whole staff that I was a part of. But it was just like great moments.
Yeah.
You guys make their dreams, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's a big part of, I would imagine, of why you do it, which we'll get into more a little later. But first, I want to flip it now to sort of the advice section of the interview and just start off by asking you, whether it be any of the guys that you talked about or anybody else, what's some of the best advice that you've been given about working in this business along the way?
I think the best advice I ever got was I got told that whenever someone gives you something to do, like be it like a small project, like something big, whatever it is, like it could be like pull me all of LeBron James fadeaways going to his right. Like whenever someone asks you to do a little thing like that, just do it straight away, no matter what you're doing. Because if you don't do it when you first get asked, then like you'll forget about it when more tasks come at you. And then so that just kind of always stuck with me because everything comes really thick and fast, and before you know it, if you don't do the thing that someone asked you to do on Sunday, then it's not going to get done. And I think little things like that like matter in staffs and building relationships and just being the best you can be daily. So like that's just kind of always stuck with me. And just work hard every day, like be an everyday guy kind of thing. Those things stick with me. I don't really have
Well,
great pearls of wisdom, unfortunately, but that's as good as it gets.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'll ask you to create one for me right here. I'll flip it. What's your best advice you would give somebody if there was a student manager that came up to you right now and asked you what would your best advice be?
Uh, my best advice is always to like network for one. And, like one thing I got told to do when I was a manager was I went on the websites of every Division One staff. I put all their names down, I read all their bios, and like any like connection that I had to that person, I would like make a note of it. Or like if I knew that, the current assistant I'm working with uh also worked with this guy, from school X, you know what I mean? I would make that connection. And then when I sent out an email to them asking for like a volunteer position, I'd be able to make it slightly personable and be like, oh, I spoke to Coach X about you and he says nothing but great things. Little things like that just to make it a bit more personable. Because I feel like when, you get a lot of emails every day, and there's a lot of emails from people just saying, "Hey, my name's Tom. Can I have a job at Oklahoma next year?" Where you look at them a little bit and you're like, like he's just copied and pasted. Like there's like 18 other emails on here. You know what I mean? Like, so like if it's more personable, like there's a higher chance of coaches replying to it and getting back to you. I feel like, so I think that's something that I did that was worthwhile back then. Um, and then also, listening to podcasts, when you're running or working out, listen to these kind of podcasts because you'll you might not get anything from it, but you might get one phrase or something like something might stick, you know. Um, yeah, I think that's always good. And then just, doing something that you're passionate about, like finding like a project that maybe like you get a synergy login as a manager and you're really interested in NBA ATOs. So just watching 100 ATOs from every team and finding your best ones so that when a coach asks you in the interview process, like, show me a project that you've done that, you could tell me about, you've got something, or just it just interests you anyway, little things. I think that's probably the best thing I could say, which also isn't super helpful, I get. But
Nah, nah, man. You gave some good nuggets there, and you answered a couple more of my questions in there, like how you sort of go about networking and things like that, and sort of the importance of taking that personal approach, not just being like, hey, like, can I have a job? And I think that definitely applies to like every business, no matter what. So great stuff there, but. Um, what the last thing I want to ask you, in the advice section is like, obviously, people will watch this and they'll see the OU on your chest and the Jordan logo and look at your social media and see the cool things you get to do and whatever as a coach or a front office person or whatever your role is in the business. But what's maybe something challenging that you think people should know before they enter the business if they're deciding like, oh, like that looks cool and they don't, know necessarily what the reasons are for getting into it.
yeah, it's literally like my dream job right now. I'm living it. So I'm loving it. But I think you need to know that it's not just you don't just go to a basketball game or do a practice here or there and then that's it for the day. It's very long days, it's long hours, a lot of travel. You're at risk of getting let go, and having to relocate, finding you don't quite have a lot of. I know more than anyone right now for the last 3 years, leaving Buffalo and leaving Greensboro, like it's a lot, and I give a lot of props to my wife for dealing with it, having to move as many times as we have the last couple of years. But to me, it's worth it. And to my wife, it's worth it. We love it. But you definitely need to be aware that it's not just what you see on the TV. There's a lot more behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, given those challenges, what's your why? What keeps you in it?
I just love it. I mean, if I wasn't being paid to do it, I'd be watching basketball anyway. I I'm a bit of a basketball junkie. I go home, my wife gets very annoyed with me because I'll leave the office, get home at like 7, and I'll put on an NBA game. Um, but yeah, I just love it. I love seeing, when I was in the G League, it was fantastic seeing guys get called up and realizing their dreams. College level, seeing kids graduate and get professional opportunities. Um, I mean, there's no feeling like it seeing other people, get their dreams, and also, you get a good old rush from winning games. It's fun. It's great to be a part of. Yeah,
I relate. Hey, I relate to that, man, about being a basketball junkie and a sicko. I work in social media. It's like sports social media, and I just worked like a regular day to day. But I'm working tonight to cover the Luka's first Laker game because like it's just like I'm gonna be watching anyway. So it's like when people ask you, you just and I feel like it's the same with like media and coaching, where it's like you're gonna be watching the stuff anyways. It's like
for
I
sure.
mean, you might as well sign up for it and get some brownie points. So definitely,
And
definitely relate to you there.
it's also great as well. Like for me, like I'm a very sociable person, and being able to be around like the staff day in day out, like I love it. Like it's great. We in downtime, I'm talking about the Luka trade. Like it's fun. Being around other people that love basketball just as much as you. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Given that you are still in the in your first years of continuing to bounce around and find your footing and all of that, what are some of your long-term aspirations in business?
Yeah, I mean the goal is just to keep on moving up the ladder. I mean, I want to be a coach. Want to be an assistant coach. But the end goal is to be the head coach. At whatever level I can. It's yeah, it's just enjoying it along the way.
I got a fun one here for you, Tom. If you weren't working in basketball, what do you think you would be doing? Which is funny considering we just talked about how big of a sickos you and I both are.
Honestly, you know what? I honestly have no idea what I would do. I don't know. That is a tough one. I might be a school teacher, maybe. I mean, I say it like I've got like the qualifications. Like I'd have to go back to school. But I enjoy teaching. Trying to think what else I would do. I don't really know. Oh, you know what? I did enjoy when I got injured at IMG. I went back home because of my injury. I was a chef at a local restaurant in England. All my friends make fun of that I wasn't a real chef, but I was a chef. I was preparing meals. And I really enjoyed it. So maybe that. It's a bit of a high pressure situation. You have to take, the preparation of it all, and then it comes, thick and fast. So I enjoyed that. So maybe
N-
a chef.
Nothing like that dinner rush, Tom.
Yeah, I know, right?
Nothing like that dinner. I mean, I've worked in restaurants and hotels and all of it. You mentioned you worked at a Marriott along the way, so have I. So relate to you there. But man, restaurant. I've only ever worked as like a host and stuff like that. So to be able to be a chef, it's as crazy as things can get with the front of house or being a waiter. I always sympathize with the chefs, man, because it
Right.
gets, especially in that dinner rush, like that's that's
But
not easy stuff.
it was funny because I was a waiter at first when I first started the job, but I kept on talking too much to like the guests. So, and they really liked me, so they didn't want to like fire me, but they were like, maybe let's try him in the kitchen, see how it goes. So I started on like desserts and starters, and I was all right at it. So they just kept moving me up. So it's
Oh
fun.
man,
Yeah.
that's you and I got a lot in common, Tom, because it's the
Right.
same. That was always my issue, man. I got yelled at by managers all the time, like shut
Yeah.
up, because I'm talking to whoever whichever regular is coming in, and I'm talking for
Right.
like 20 minutes, and so definitely,
So,
hey, yeah, definitely feel you there, man.
yeah.
Before we let you go though, is there anything else that you would like to add?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess I'm very lucky with what I do, and I owe an awful lot of where I got to my wife, who's she sticks by me every day and backpacked me, like I said, to get me going. So I think I'm really fortunate, and I've been really lucky to work with great staffs and great coaches along the way. I'm just excited to see where the journey takes me.
Absolutely, we are excited to watch for sure. That is University of Oklahoma Director of Analytics and Video Coordinator Tom Fox. Tom, thanks again so much for joining Hoops U.
Really appreciate it. Happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you to our viewers and listeners for tuning into another episode of University of Hoops, the show that's taking you behind the scenes of your favorite basketball team with interviews just like this one as much as we can. And follow us on social media. We're at Univ Hoops, UNIV Hoops, everywhere Instagram, TikTok, X, all of them. So give us a follow. Stay tuned for another show, and we will see you next time.